ओम वागीशाद्याः सोनसः सद्वार्थानामुपक्रमे यं नत्वा कृतकृत्याः स्युः तं नमामि गजाननं पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन कृतितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्ददामि भगवद्गीते भवत्वेषिणीम् मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां योगिनं विश्वनाथाख्यम् अस्मत्तातस्वरूपिणम् आत्मलाभात् परं लाभं वक्तारं न कदाचन गीतार्थग्रन्थकर्तारं श्रीगुरुं प्रणमाम्यहं योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मे वाचं धृतिं बुद्धिं प्रचोदयात्। ॐ नमः सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यश्च वो नमः। ॐ Friends, we are going to be doing Gita regimen for Advaitic living, number 21. We are in the third chapter. We are actually in shloka number 36, which is a question by Arjuna. Since the Lord was talking about Raga and Dvesha, they are located in the senses and the senses are drawn towards sense objects, but as individuals we should not be drawn by that. Tayorna vasamagachet, that was in shloka 34. Do not go under the sway of the senses which are drawn towards sense objects. Do not go under the sway of raga dvesha. Raga attachment, dvesha is hate. So when this is well known, Arjuna asked the question, if all this is known, then why does man make mistakes, sins? Why does man sin? Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaham anichannapi varshneya. He does not want to do that. He does not want to do the sin, but something in him, baladiva niyojitaha, something within him forces him, prompts him, forces him. He is powerless before that force. Baladiva niyojitaha, it prompts him, it draws him away, it hijacks him towards the sense objects. Why does he commit sin? Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaham anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. This is a question which all of us have to seek the answer for, because all of us know that in spite of the fact that there are certain things which are wrong, we know to be wrong, we cannot but be drawn towards in the wrong direction. Why does that happen? And Bhagavan's answer is a famous answer, but it's a very familiar answer. And this part of the Gita, in actually the entire third chapter, is a beautiful diagnostic analysis of what happens to us ordinary people if we are not careful about our spiritual antecedents. The details of this diagnosis which Krishna makes resemble how a doctor tells you when you go and complain to him that your digestive system is not working. So he is able to tell you exactly what goes wrong, how things happen, and how you may have to overcome it, and how there are certain things which you cannot contend against. You have to live with it. All these things the doctor is able to diagnose. Like that, Krishna diagnoses here man's proneness to do sin, to fall under sin. So he gives the famous answer. Shloka number 37. Kamayesha krodhayesha rajo guna samudbhavaham Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyenam Ikavairinam. Kama Yesha Krodha Yesha. Kama, desire. Krodha, anger. Desire and anger. These are the two things, desire and anger. Kama and Krodha. Right? Rajo Guna Samudbhavaha. Where are they coming from? They are born out of Rajo Guna. When the Rajas, you see, all of us have all three gunas built into us in various proportions. Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna. But when the Rajo Guna is dominant, from that arises Kama Yesha, Krodha Yesha, Kama and Krodha, desire and anger. Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyenam Ikavairinam. Mahashano Mahapapma. Mahashanaha. It is a glutton. It can consume anything. It will keep on eating. I mean, keep on desiring. Insatiable. Mahashanaha. Whatever you feed to it, it will still ask for more. Mahashanaha. Mahapapma. That is the great sinner. The sinner is not the man. The sinner is the Kama in him. The sinner is the Krodha in him. Vidyenam Ikavairinam. Vidhi means understand. Enam, this, that is Kama and Krodha as a collective singular. Ena Ikavairinam. In this world, understand that these two, Kama and Krodha, desire and anger, are the greatest enemies for man. This seems to be rather simple. It is okay. I mean, all of us would agree that this is so. But the whole Vedanta talks about it repeatedly. Upanishads talk about it. The Puranas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and all the Puranas talk about it. All great Upanyasakas, all great sages, all great rishis talk about it and tell us that Kama Yesha, Krodha Yesha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha comes from your Rajoguna. Understand it is the Shatru, Thayorna Vashamagached. Do not go under its sway. Everybody tells us, why is this? Why are these two things so powerful for a man who has the sixth sense of reason in him? Why does it happen? Viveka Chudamani is a great work. In fact, one of the fundamental works for Advaita made by Acharya Shankara. 78th sloka Viveka Chudamani is wonderful in this respect. Shabdadibhi panchabhirevacham pancha panchattvamapaswagunena baddhaham kuranga matanga patanga meena bringanara panchabhiranchitas anchitah kim. If you know the meaning, you will appreciate the shloka. I am telling you. You see, Kuranga Matanga Patanga Meena Bringa. Kuranga is deer. Matanga is elephant. Patanga is the moth. Meena is fish. Bringa is honeybee. What happens? Kuranga, the deer, is so much sensitive, to good music. When you chase the deer, it runs and runs, you cannot chase it, you cannot catch it. But you play a flute or some instrumental music, it's enchanted by that music and stands still, and you can go and catch it. Deer falls a prey to the shabda, that is the sound sense among the five senses, the sound sense, shabda. So it falls a prey to shabda. Matanga, the elephant, falls a prey to touch. We want those who want to catch the elephant. They take a cow elephant, near the one and make the cow elephant rub shoulders with the bigger male elephant, and that's it. That is the trap. The other bigger elephant stands still and falls into the pit which has been already made for him right before it. So the elephant meets its so-called death by this sparsha sense. Sparsha is touch. That is, by that single touch, it falls a prey, it loses itself. Kuranga, matanga, patanga. Patanga, fly, moth. Everybody knows. It looks at the burning flame and it thinks that something good is there, and it is attracted by the form of the flame, and it goes and falls into the flame and dies. So it meets its death because of its sensitivity to that one sense, that sense of form. Shabda, sparsha, rupa. Shabda is the trap for the deer, sparsha is the trap for the elephant, and sparsha, shabda, sparsha, rupa. Rupa is the trap for the moth. Patanga, meena, fish. What does it do? The fishermen or the those who want to catch the fish, so they have hooked something food in the bait, and that bait, that taste, that flavor, that taste of it, it wants to taste it, it tastes the bait, and the bait it loses itself and it is caught. So meena, it falls a prey to the sense of taste. Bringa, honeybee, you all know, it falls a prey to the smell, the flavor, the smell of the flower, and it goes and sits into it, and the petals close, and that is how it meets its actual death. So Kuranga, Matanga, Patanga, Meena, Bringa, these five five non-human beings, each one falls a prey to one of its senses, and that one itself becomes the end. But what does man have? Man is drawn by not one sense, not Shabda alone, not Sparsha alone, not Rupa alone, not Rasa alone, not Gandha alone. He falls a prey to all the five senses. And so what can be talked about him? You see, even one sense, that single sense kills, and that happens to the Kuranga, Matanga, Patanga, Meena, Bringa. On the other hand, Panchabhiranchitakim, all the five together kill the man. This is what happens. Kamayesha, Krodhayesha, Rajo Guna Samudbhabham. The Kama desire springs in us. It affects our vision, it affects our ears, it affects our taste, it affects everything. And through that, you see, and when the desires are not fulfilled, krodha, anger comes. So these two things are the enemies of man. And he goes further. This is, as I told you, there is a diagnostic analysis of how man falls a prey to his senses and for the concept of sense gratification. Dhumena, next sloka. Dhumena priyate vannihi yatha darsho malena cha yatolbena avruto garbha tatha tenedam avrutam. Man's goal is to ultimately reach the Supreme. But the Supreme is not somewhere else, it is already inside. It is his own Atma, he is himself, the Atma, Brahman. But he doesn't realize it. Why does he not realize it? Because something hides it. Something conceals it. Right? Obscures. There is an obscuration. How does it happen? Dhumena priyate vannihi. There is a fire. The fire emits smoke, but the smoke covers the fire. and hides it. The flame itself is not visible through the smoke. So the smoke hides the fire. Dhumena avriyate vannihi. Vannihi fire. Dhumena by the smoke. Avriyate is covered, enveloped, obscured, concealed, wrapped up. Yatha darsho malena cha. Adarshaha means mirror. Adarshaha means mirror. Malena cha, there is a lot of dust in it. This dust covers the mirror and you are not able to see the mirror, and the mirror is not able to do its duty. So, yatha adarshaha malena cha. This is our ignorance, our proneness to kama and krodha, that one, it hides, our ajnana hides the inside self, the inner self, which is within us, which is ourselves. It hides it like this. Just as fire is hidden by the smoke, just as the mirror is hidden by the dust, yatholbena avruto garbham, just as the vulva, the membrane surrounding the embryo, it is called amnion, that hides the garbha, the fetus inside. Yatholbena avruto garbha, yata garbha vulbena avritaha. Vulva is the amnion and avritaha means covered. Just as the garbha is covered by the amnion, just as the mirror is covered by the dust, just as the fire is covered by the smoke, so also our self, the inner self, is covered by our ignorance, and among of the ignorance caused by kama and krodha. Ignorance in the form of kama and krodha. Dhumena priyate vannihi yatha darsho malena cha yatholbena avruto garbham tata thenedam avrutam. It's an interesting sideline here. Yatha means dhum. There are three analogies. Fire hidden by smoke, mirror hidden by the dust on the mirror, and the garbha hidden by the the membrane surrounding it. These three analogies are of three kinds. The first one, dhumena avriyate vannihi, fire is hidden by the smoke, is a kind of a sattvic hiding. What is a sattvic hiding? It is the softest hiding. It is easy to drive away. It is easy to get out of that hiding. It is easy to uncover that covering. How do you do that? Just you fan the smoke goes away, and you are able to see the fire. Yatha darsho malena cha. Mirror is hidden by mala, the dust on it. But now you cannot just fan it. You have to now keep a cloth, have also water with you, and then wipe it off. You have to do several things, and perhaps if the dust is very heavy, you have to use some chemicals to wash it off. So you need more effort. Yatha darsho malena cha. Adarshaha malena hidden. Yatholbena avruto garbha. Of course, in the third case, it is not easy to uncover the fetus. It is going to take 10 months before it automatically, by itself, it does. So, that is the Rajasic hiding. So, there is a Sattvic hiding, there is a Rajasic hiding, there is a Tamasic hiding. There are three kinds. But we are our self is hidden by kama and krodha, by all kinds of all three hidings. Avrutam jnanametena jnanino nityamairina. What is hidden? We are talking of the self being hidden. The self is not hidden. The self cannot be hidden. The self is there. So what is hidden? So the correction is made here in the shloka number 39. Avrutam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina. Avrutam jnanam etena. So what is hidden is not the self, but the knowledge about the self. It is our knowledge about the self. Jnanam etena avrutam. Jnanino nityavairina. Jnaninaha jnanam. The seekers, jnanam, nityavairina, this permanent enemy, kamaha and krodha, or the permanent enemy together. We are talking of as it was a collective noun, jnana, kama and krodha. Nitya vairinam kama rupena kaunteye dushpurena analecha. Kama rupena, it is this covering, you see, this ignorance is in the form of desire. Between desire and anger, desire is more fundamental. See, this you must remember that there are 13 channels of the mind. They are bad channels. Raga, dvesha. Raga, attachment, dvesha, hate. Kama, krodha. From attachment arises desire. From hate arises anger. Kama, krodha. Lobha, moha. Mada, matsarya. Irshya, asuya, damba, garva. And then ahankar. There are 13 of them. These 13 channels are there as options to the mental movement, and of all these, raga and dvesha are the most fundamental ones. Here we are taking kama and krodha, the next step. That is, the raga and dvesha, attachment and hate, are not probably publicly exhibitable. Kama, it exhibits as a desire, and dvesha exhibits as an anger. So, what exhibits itself is said here, kama rupena kaunteya, it in the form of desire. And what is that desire? What kind of desire? Dushpurena analena cha. Dushpurena analena cha. Dushpurena means insatiable. It can never be satisfied. You put more and more, you try to satisfy your desire, you will have more desires. See, desire cannot be satisfied. We all know after experience, long experience in life. But younger people, inexperienced people who do not know the full power of what desire can do, they fall a prey to desires and further desires. Dushpurena, so it is insatiable. Insatiable fire. Why does he use the word fire here? Because in Manusmriti there is a beautiful statement which explains this. Najatu kama kamanam upabhogena shamyati havisha krishna vartmeve bhuya eva abhivardhate. Najatu kama kamanam. Kamaha, desire. Kamanam, sensual people. Upabhogena shamyati. Na upabhogena shamyati. Upabhogena means by experience, by enjoyment. See, the desire to enjoy. Having enjoyed, you need further enjoyment. This further enjoyment will not satisfy the desire for enjoyment. The desire for enjoyment keeps on growing. It is insatiable. So, how is that? The beautiful example. Havisha Krishna Vartmeva. This is Manusmriti. Havisha Krishna Vartmeva Bhuya Eva Abhivardhate. Fire is there, in a yajna, homa, etc. Fire. You pour ghee into it, the fire grows up. Fire wants more ghee now. You give it more ghee, it won't stop. It will go further. Havisha Krishna Vartmeva. Krishna Vartma is fire. Bhuya Eva. The more ghee, the more clarified butter you pour into it, the more it grows. The more it grows. Desire is exactly like that. The more you satisfy your desires, you will have more desires. So that is dushpurena, right? Desire of the sensual people does not ever become satiated through enjoyment, by further oblation. Just as fire by further oblation only increases furthermore. So, avritam jnanametene jnanino nitya vairinam kama rupena kaunteye dushpurena nalena cha. Next sloka. Indriyani mano buddhi asyadhishtana muchyate etair vimohayatyesha jnanamavritya dehinam. These 4 slokas, 37, 38, 39, 40. I am now in 40. These 4 slokas are the diagnostic analysis of what happens inside us when kama and krodha are holding the sway over us. Indriyani mano buddhi asya adhisthana muchyate. The question is, where is this kama? Where is this krodha? Right? Asya adhishtanam indriyani, the senses, the manas, the buddhi. Manas, mind, intellect and the senses, these are the adhishtana. Adhishtana means its locus, abode, its base. Adhishtana is a very interesting word, Vedanta word. Adhishtana has always the extra status. Adhikasthana. Adhikasthana becomes Adhishtana. Right? It has Adhikasthana, extra status, both in terms of time and in terms of existence. For a pot made of clay, clay is the base. The pot lives for less time than the clay of which it is made. So, the Adhishtana lives more, the thing which is superposed on that lives less. So, what is the Adhishtana? What is the base? What is the abode for this kama and krodha? Indriyani mano buddhi. So, you have the diagnostic analysis. Manas and kama yesha from the rajoguna of our prakriti. Our prakriti contains all the three gunas. For some of us, rajoguna is uppermost. For many of us, sometimes rajoguna becomes uppermost. So, from that the kama and krodha arises. It is a mahasana, it is a glutton, it is the main shatru. It covers our wisdom, our knowledge. Is in avritam jnanametena. It covers our knowledge, just as smoke covers fire, the dust covers the mirror, or the membrane covers the garbha. So it covers, and it is situated in our senses, in our manas, in our intellect. Indriyani mano buddhi asya adhishtana muchyate etair vimohayatyesha jnanamavritya dehinam. Dehinam, the resident in the body, is confounded, is confused, is vimohayati, he is falls a prey to it. Jnanamavritya dehinam. Therefore, it covers the wisdom, the knowledge of the dehinam, of the resident in the body. So these four shlokas, 37 to 40, are the way Krishna has analyzed beautifully. For what he has done it right here. After this, he does not come back to this topic until the 17th chapter. So having made this analysis, he now concludes. Always, whenever he concludes a certain trend of thought, he uses the word tasmat. So next sloka, 41. Tasmat tvamindriyanyado nishamya viniyamya bharatarushabha papmanam prajahishyenam jnana vijnana nasinam. Tasmat, therefore, what you should do? Indriyani ado niyamya bharatarushabha. Hey Arjuna, Indriyani adau niyamya. Adau is the crucial word. Adau means first of all, right in the beginning. Sir, this spiritual ascent is very difficult. Where am I to start? How am I to do that? Shall I read Brihadaranyaka first? Shall I read Ishopanishad first? All these questions one asks, you see. But the first thing you have to do is Indriyani mano indriyan. Tasmat tvamindriyanyado adau indriyani niyamya. Start controlling your senses. Start controlling. Control means not coercive control. I already told you in shloka number 33. The shloka number 33 says Sadrisham cheshtate swastyaga. Even a wise man, prakrite jnanavanapi, prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kinkarishyati. Everybody follows that their own swabhava, their nature, nigraha kinkarishyati. What can control do? It says. Does not mean, it is not a pessimistic observation. It is a very correct observation. Nigraha means coercive control cannot overcome it. You have to have a niyamya sattvic control. And I already explained, I gave you the analogy of the mother controlling the obstinate child. So then, that is where one has to start. See, those who want to control, obese, people who are obese, they want to control diet control. They forcibly, almost fast, probably for 3 days, 4 days, maybe for 1 week. And after 7 or 8 days, they find some result. Weight probably is 1 pound has reduced or something. But what happens after that? Again, when they start eating, it goes up. So that is only a coercive control. You cannot do it like that. You have to have a kind of a samyama or niyama. You see, nigraha is violence to the nature by the will. What happens in the end? It depresses the natural powers of the self, the outer self, I mean. Right? Samyama, on the other hand, samyama is control of the lower self by the higher self. There is an inner self, there is a higher self in us that has to control the lower self, the outer self, the external self. That is what gives efficiency successfully to these powers of the outer personality. In fact, Krishna refers to this kind of samyama control very correctly at the right place in 6th chapter. Asamyasatmana yogo dushprapa iti me matihim vashyatmana tu yasata shakyo vaptam yogata. He is talking about yoga there in the 6th chapter. How does one gets, an efficiency? In yoga, how does one control the mind? How does one control all the other senses? Asamyatatmana yogo. If you cannot control it the soft way, asamyata atmanaha yoga, yogaha dushprapadyaha. Yoga cannot be obtained by one who has not controlled his outer self by his inner self. Vashyatmana, but one who has controlled it, shakyo vaptum ayogataha. So very easy to rise in the ascent of yoga. He says in the 6th chapter, so that is it. Tasmatvam indriyanyado. I am coming back to 41 in 3rd chapter. Tasmatvam indriyanyado niyamya bharatarushabha papmanam prajahikyenam. So enam papmanam, this sinner is the kama and krodha. This sinner, prajahi, conquer, vanquish, jnana vijnana nashanam. Otherwise, he will destroy both your wisdom and your the application of that wisdom. Jnana and vijnana will be destroyed by him. Tasmat, therefore, from the beginning, you start controlling the senses. And again, one more thing has to be remembered in this sadhana. So this is a sadhana. This is an exercise, lifelong exercise. See, it is not as if I have controlled it from today, so from next month onwards, on the 1st of June onwards, I have nothing to do, I have nothing to control. You cannot say that. You have to keep on controlling it, because it is something which has to go on. You cannot turn off the engine when the plane is flying. When the flight is on, you cannot turn off the engine saying now it is going. It won't. You cannot turn off the engine. You have to keep on controlling. So, tasmat tvam indriyanyado niyamya bharatarushabha papmanam prajahishyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. See, we are all asking, what is the regimen? What does Gita say for my daily transaction? What is it I have to do? And he says, start by trying, exercising to control the senses in the sattvic way. And now he gives a general Vedantic description of the Indriyas and Manas in number 42 and 43. So suddenly now so far he has talked, in a kind of a man-to-man thing about how to control, how to do the karma, how to do the yajna, all those things. So now he is talking Vedanta. Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhya param manaham manasastu para buddhihi yo buddhe paratastu saha. Indriyani parani ahuhu. Indriya senses are very supreme, very great. Indriyebhya param manaha, more than the senses, higher than the senses, subtler than the senses. Indriyebhya param. Param means supreme, subtler, like that. What is the more supreme? Manas, the mind. So senses and then the mind. Manasastu para buddhi. More than the mind, subtler than the mind, more difficult, more greater than the mind is buddhi, the intellect. Yo buddhe paratastu saha. Beyond the intellect is the self, saha. So the level, senses, mind, right? Buddhi, buddhe paratastu saha. The self, that absolute, is a statement not made by Krishna alone here. It comes from the Upanishad, Kathopanishad. Indriyebhya parahyarta artebhyasya param manaham manasastu para buddhiye buddheratma mahan paraha. Almost the same thing in Kathopanishad. So actually he has borrowed the words. It's a wrong thing to say that Krishna borrowed from Upanishad. Upanishad is only his own saying. So it is his words. He has now lifted the same words here. Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhihi yo buddhe paratastu saha. Why did he say that? So what is it now? The self, the supreme, the absolute. What is it? It is beyond the intellect. Buddhe paratastu saha. Beyond the intellect. Is it all right? Buddhe paratastu saha. So, the next sloka tells you why this was stated here. Evam buddhe param buddhva. It's a beautiful sloka, very important sloka. Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmanam jagishatram mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. That finishes the third chapter. This last sloka contains the gist of what we have to do. Buddhe param buddhva. Buddhva, understanding what? Buddhe param. Understanding what is more supreme than the intellect. I hope you follow that. Buddhe param buddhva. Buddhva means understanding. Understanding by what? How do you understand? By intellect. So be careful. Understanding by the intellect that the absolute is beyond the intellect. Very clear. This is the only answer to all those skeptics who keep on using logic to find out the truth, especially in spiritual matters. In spiritual matters, the truth can be found by Naisha Tarkeda Matidapaniya, says the Upanishad. You cannot find it by logic. Logic will go only up to a certain extent. Beyond that, it is beyond the logic. That's what exactly it says. Buddhe param buddhva. Underline it 100 times. Red light it, highlight it. This is the one thing that we have to understand. You have to understand that what has to be understood is beyond our understanding. I hope you have followed it. Buddhe param buddhva. What has to be understood is the self, is the absolute. But it cannot be understood by the intellect. This has to be understood by the intellect. The fact that the absolute cannot be understood by the intellect should be understood by the intellect. Buddhe param buddhva. That is the meaning of this statement. Buddhe param buddhva. Understand that It is buddhev param, beyond the intellect. And how do you understand? Understand by the intellect. Evam buddhev param bhuttva samstabhyatmanam atmanam. That is, beholding, controlling, samstabhya, fixing the atmanam, the outer self, by the inner self. Jagishatrum Mahabaho, conquer the Shatru. What is the Shatru? Kamarupam Durasadam, in the form of desire. So he started with a discourse on desire and anger, and he tells you how to conquer that desire and anger. And of course, we are going to go along in the Gita, all the other chapters, where we will continue this thought. But it's wonderful that in this one shloka, one quarter of a shloka, Buddhev Param Buddhva, he has given you a beautiful capsule summary of the entire Vedanta. And that finishes this chapter. This chapter is called Karma Yoga. I usually, when I finish a chapter, I did in the second chapter also, I give you a recap of what was there in chapter 3. We have done the chapter 3 now. Let us go back and recall the conclusions, the major points of the third chapter. In the second chapter, we had both Vedanta and Karma Yoga. Vedanta part, there is only the soul, soul will never die, it can never be touched, it is there always, and so on and so on. And then he started the Karma Yoga there, Karmanyeva Adhikarasya, and he talked about Karma Yoga. And then at the end he talked about Sthita Prajna, how the one who has reached that destination, who has realized the self, how he one behaves. So he gave, in fact, second chapter is a complete Vedantic exercise. But the third chapter is out and out Karma Yoga. There is very little Vedanta here. The question for your question about regimen. What is the regimen? What is the thing that Gita tells us to do in my daily transactional world? Exactly follow the third chapter. What does it say? It says there are two major concepts. One is the yajna concept. What is the yajna concept? Because in the second chapter we concluded by saying Ragadvesha Viyuktaistu Kshajanindriyaishcharan, the famous sloka 64 or something. So how are we ordinary people supposed to be following Ragadvesha Viyuktai? Ragadvesha Viyuktai means without the raga, without the dvesha. That is exactly what we have ended with here also. Here it talks about Kama and Krodha. There he talked about Raga and Dvesha, which is more fundamental. So Raga Dvesha Viyuktai. How do we ordinary people, how do we keep our senses without attachment, without hate? And Gita's hallmark advice comes in the third chapter. That is the major point about the third chapter. Do everything as a yajna. Yajna arthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. So do everything as a yajna. What is yajna? The methodology of selfless action. You see, every action has to be dedicated to our God of dedication. What is the God of dedication? The God of dedication can be really a God, a supernatural God, or just your mother or father, just your guru, just a kind of an informal concept, Bharat Mata. So you could be God of dedication. Any voluntary acceptance of suffering, mark it, voluntary acceptance of suffering or discipline undertaken unselfishly and equanimously as an offering to one's deity of dedication, that is a yajna. This is the definition of yajna. Any voluntary acceptance of suffering or discipline, voluntary acceptance of discipline undertaken unselfishly and equanimously as an offering to one's deity of dedication. This deity, as I told you, it could be a God, supernatural God, it could be father, it could be mother, it could be guru, it could be a noble cause, anything. But anything done other than as a yajna creates a bondage. Therefore, unselfish dedicated action is the only thing which will release you from all bondage. Right? In doing one's karma, what do you mean by karma? Discharging one's obligations. You see? Niyatam kuru karma tvam, third chapter. I am now summarizing the third chapter. Niyatam kuru karma tvam. The discharge of one's prescribed obligations, one should not have the feeling that it is one's own doing. This is the next thought. Yajna is the first thought. The next thought and major thought in the third chapter is, I am not the doer. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Prakriti is the doer, I am not the doer. This is another major message which the Gita underlines throughout. In other words, actionlessness. I have to act in the world. I cannot be without action any moment. Thinking is an action, right? Thinking is an action. So, but I have to be actionless in the attitude. That is, Prakriti is the doer, I am not the doer. We are going to be talking about this actionlessness for many times as we go along. So, Prakriti is the thing that has been introduced in the third chapter rather elaborately in those three shlokas, 27, 28, 29. Prakriti in this context, as I told you, means only Swabhava, innate nature, which every person brings from his previous births, from various thoughts and actions that he has done. They are what contributes to the person's doings in this Janma. So they are the gunas, tendencies. You see, as a man, as the jiva goes from body to body, the mind travels along with it, but the mind does not go with all its memory, but it goes with all in which is vasanas, tendencies. You have trained yourself to do a certain thing in a certain way, and therefore this tendency, this vasana is there. But the ego overpowered person thinks that he is the doer. The ultimate message for him is to monitor and control his nature, because it is the nature that dominates that thinking, I am the doer. This controlling has to be done amidst the transactional work in this world. Nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigata jwaraga. Beautiful shloka number 30 in the third chapter. Nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigata jwaraga. Without desire, without the thought of I am doing it, nirmamaha, thought of any possession, nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva. Go and fight. Go and fight. That was a statement to make to Arjuna. For us, ordinary people, do work in the transactional world, transact your business with an actionless spirit, attitude. Right? So we have to continue our activities in the transactional world without any selfish desire, without building castles in the air, without any possessive orientation, hidden or otherwise. Vigatat jwaraha is also there. Another thing. Nirashi nirmamaha, I am in shloka 30. Nirmamaha yudhyasva vigatat jwaraha, without excitement. What does it mean in our case? Asking Arjuna to fight without excitement, that itself is a tall order. But we in our Vyavaharik life, we are enjoined to eschew all excitement, which means, in spite of the multifarious occasions, anything will provoke us, either positively or negatively, to be excited. That excitement should be there. And what does that mean? This means, this in spite of that shloka number 33, which says, even a wise man will fall a prey to the Prakriti, he will go according to his Svabhava. So, how do we avoid it? How do we avoid falling a prey to this Svabhava? And that is why this shloka comes. Kamayesha krodha, today's shloka. Kamayesha krodhayesha rajo guna samudbhavagam. So, and these are the two things which are inside us, which control us. So we have to be careful. Tasmat, therefore, indriyani adau niyamya, soft control. You do this. That is the final concluding message of Krishna in the 3rd chapter. But in between, he has thrown in an interesting shloka. You know, shloka 34, which says, Indriyasyandriyasyarte ragadvesha vyavasthitau. Raga and dvesha are located in the senses. Tayorna vashamagache, don't fall into the sway. Arjuna was thinking about it, and he is going to ask the question, who is prompting the person from inside to commit sin? But in between, Krishna has another shloka, Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunagam. It has nothing to do with the previous shloka. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunagam Paradharma Sonushtvitat. Swadharma is great. It is another thought in this chapter. But Arjuna missed it here. He does not respond to that. That is why Krishna is repeating that same line. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharmat Sonushtita. Swadharma is better, even if incompletely done, than Paradharma, another's dharma. He repeats in the 18th chapter because Arjuna was inattentive here at that time. Because he was enthralled by the question about Indriya and Ragadvesha. So he is asking the question, Atakena Prayuktoyam, why is man committing sin? So between that, Krishna has almost interpolated in his own thing. He has interpolated a Vedantic shloka, which he will explain in due course. But here, let me give you the meaning of that. Swadharme nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhayavagaha. Swadharma, one's own dharma is the great thing, will do good to you. Paradharma, another's dharma is dangerous. That is the simple English meaning of that line. But the Vedantic meaning is, Swadharma means Swaswarupakya Darshana Dharma. Swaswarupakya, Swaswarupa, one's own nature, one's own form, one's own reality. Swaswarupa, I am the self, I am the absolute. Aham Brahma Asmi. Aham Brahma Asmi. This is the Swaswarupa. Swaswarupakya Darshana. That is, this is a realization. This is a realization of the Swaswarupa. Swaswarupa means one's own rupa, form. So that dharma, the dharma of realizing one's own self is Swadharma. And what is Paradharma? The opposite of this. Paradharma means Prangmukhiyo Dharma. Instead of looking at the inner self, instead of realizing the inner self, always one is conscious about the outer things, material things, anything that is outer, non-self. Prangmukhi yo dharma, that is paradharma. Certainly it is dangerous. So the Advaitic truth is ingrained in that shloka, but Arjuna misses it at this point. Krishna is going to come back to it in the 18th chapter. So anyway, that gives us the 13th chapter, the 3rd chapter end, and whenever the chapter ends, there is this colophon, Mahabharate, Shatasahasrayam Samhitayam, in this 100,000, 1 lakh shlokas, Vaiyasikyam, done by Vyasa, Bhishma Parvani, in Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishatsu. This is Bhagavad Gita. It is also an Upanishad. It is also a Brahma Vidya. It is also a Yoga Shastra. So it is a step. Bhagavad Gita, Upanishatsu, Brahma Vidyayam, Yoga Shastre, Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, Krishna and Arjuna, their conversation, Karma Yogo Nama. That is, I told you this is called Karma Yoga. That one was called Sankhya Yoga in the 2nd chapter. Karma Yogo Nama, Tritiyodhyaya. Usually one does not end with the end shloka, so I will just read the next shloka of the 4th chapter and conclude for today. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Agamavyayam Vivaswan Manave Praha मनुरिक्ष्वाकवे ब्रवीत्। स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्याय्येन मार्गेण महीं महीषाः। गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं। लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। ॐ तत्सत्।